All right, we'll call this meeting to order and a moment of silent prayer. Guide us today. Okay. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Roll call, Mrs. Franks.
Mayor Kindle.
Present.
Councilwoman Costantino.
Present.
Councilman Jenny. Councilwoman LaPratte.
Here.
Councilwoman Sawicki.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Williams.
Present.
Councilman Tucson.
Present.
Acting City Manager Szymanski.
Here.
And City Attorney Diwali is absent tonight.
Ooh. Okay. All right. First of all, we have a presentation from the Helms. Crystal, would you mind coming to the podium? Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate being able to address the council this evening. I'm Krista Siddell. I'm the executive director of the Helm. We've been here a few times before, so I know we look somewhat familiar. Tonight, we would like to ask you to give the citizens of Harper Woods the opportunity to decide for themselves if they would like to ensure the well-being of seniors through a state-authorized millage. While I would hope for your individual support, the ballot would be about allowing your citizens in Harper Woods to have the opportunity to decide. In our previous presentations, we have shared the demographics of your community and the growing number of citizens 65 and older. We also shared the positive results from our polling of the community's support for a senior millage. This support came not only from 50-year-olds, but 50 and older, and what is called the sandwich generation, those 35 to 50-year-olds who are concerned about the well-being of their parents. The Helm is spearheading this initiative since we are the comprehensive and primary provider of senior services in the Grosse Pointes and in Harper Woods. We are dedicated to inspiring and enabling our residents to enjoy the gift of longevity, living healthy and meaningful lives as they age. We also shared what the proposed millage will fund. While Even Bingo does provide some important socialization opportunities and good health outcomes, the millage dollars will be used to fund expansion of important essential health and wellness services, as well as many new services, including an adult daycare, off-site programming, home visitations, and expanded evidence-based programming for seniors. The millage will also shore up the PATS transportation program, so we are able to continue to provide transportation for seniors. The Helm has been in existence for more than 45 years, funded mainly through philanthropic efforts at this point. I can assure you that we will indeed and must continue to meet the needs of our community through philanthropy. But I am grateful to acknowledge that since this existence, we are looking for longer-term sustainable funding. I am grateful that the city managers who have worked with us, thank you so much, to understand our needs and help us revise and lower the proposed millage rate to 0.35, generating the minimum amount that will allow us to achieve this purpose without overtaxing your community. The city managers went on to draft an interlocal agreement to resolve the issues of a joint city initiative and universal ballot language. I am very grateful for your help and for your support in this. The handout in your packet shows you the impact of the community of the lower millage rate and your demographics. The average cost is $16 per year. We also included statistics on your city's current use of Helm services. I know that was one of the questions we addressed at one of the last meetings, but I did put a handout in there for you as well, and that is a year snapshot. It will only continue to grow. You also have a copy of the ballot language. So, I would like to ask that you please vote yes to place the question of a senior services millage on the ballot and give the citizens the opportunity to decide if they would like to continue to support our senior community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay. I need an approval, a motion to approve the minutes.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I'll offer the motion to accept, receive, and file the minutes of the regular city council meeting of May 20th, to receive and file the library board meeting minutes held April 18th, and receive and file the beautification commission minutes from their April 22nd meeting.
Support.
Any discussion?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
When I read over the city council meeting minutes, there is a correction that needs to be made, and that has to do with the comments you made about Juneteenth. I believe at the meeting you had mentioned that the Juneteenth celebration would be from 1 to 4 p.m., but the minutes say 4 to 8 p.m., and I believe it is 1 to 4 p.m.
It is a mistake. It's 1 to 4.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is public comments on agenda items. At this time, generally, we accept anything that is on the agenda that you can comment on. But being this how we figure that we think that people will want to comment on the Wilborn report, which hasn't even been given. So if your comment is in regards to the Wilborn report, you will have to wait until after the report is given.
Ma'am,
Any,
will there be a time for them to make comments?
wait,
at the-
yeah.
Okay.
We will have comments as usual during call the audience. And at that time, they can make the comments regarding the report. Is it understood?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
May I ask, may I make a recommendation that people who are interested in commenting on the Winborn report be given the opportunity right after the report? Instead of waiting till the call to the audience?
I'm not,
And may I give some rationale for that? The only reason I thought it would be beneficial is that right now, I think maybe members of the community may not be as familiar with what's in the report. If they read it, it would be valuable to hear from the people from Winborn. But I think that the community is invested in this process, and so allowing them to comment.
boy, it's nothing, we're not disallowing them to comment.
Right.
Okay, it's just that the timing that they will comment will come at the call to audience. We're not interrupting the city manager's report to stop so people can talk regarding the report. They still will have the opportunity.
And we're not taking action on anything tonight.
The action that we're going to take is already the one we've already laid out, that you guys are already aware of. It's just the opportunity for us to have conversations. This is not the final analysis, because even with whatever else people are saying, that is what is in your package, and that is what is going to think, the only thing we're going to act on tonight.
Right.
I don't understand how people got everything all confused.
Well, the reason I think, at least for me, is that in the commentary that precedes the report by the city manager, the resolution would authorize him to begin negotiations. And
That's
so,
right.
While you know, the city council might vote one way or the other on that aspect of the report, I think it would be valuable to have the community be able to comment before we take our, before we do this. In other words, the city is invested, that is, the community needs to get behind whatever we do, because it's going to mean a change in our present system, no matter what we do. It's going to mean a change in the present system. And it would be valuable, I think, to hear comments from the community so that they know that we are paying attention to their needs and allow them to voice their concerns.
And not to interrupt you, we are paying attention to our residents,
Yes,
right?
But what I'm saying-
Residents,
Yes. But
okay?
What I'm saying.
And because we are paying attention to what the residents that are present here have to say,
Right.
that is the only reason that we're going to allow them to ask questions of the report, from the reporter, not from us.
Right, that's what I'm saying, is to allow them to ask questions following the presentation, not to have to wait until the end of the meeting after we've done our vote. That's all I need.
Well, we should have already, you should have already read your report.
Of course.
And so you're gonna listen to what the Wilborn report is saying.
Right.
And then from that point, not necessarily what you hear from the residents or even from the union members that are here. That is where you as a legislative body is supposed to make your decision from.
I totally understand, excuse me, I totally understand that I am responsible, and I am totally responsible for the decision I made. I'm an elected official, and I understand that role. However, I think that the most success we're going to have in moving toward a new method, a new format for our fire department will be to get the residents on board as well. And I think that the only way we can do that is to make certain that we've heard and Winborn's been able to answer any questions they might have. And I think that it would be a valuable service to the community to allow them to speak after they've heard the presentation. That's all I'm saying. I really think that it would be valuable to the community.
Madam Chair, is this
Yeah.
but this is not the first time we presented this report.
It's the first time that all of the elements are in place. The analysis is in place.
All right, let me move forward. So is there anyone that has any public comment other than the Wilborn report? And you, sir, are?
Yeah, my name is Scott Bala, 6th District Vice President of the Michigan Professional Firefighters Union, and here to support our local firefighters, Harper Woods. Point of legislative, or I guess an agenda item. So I believe we need to be careful, the body up here needs to be careful because on the Open Meetings Act, you've put out an agenda that has public comments on agenda items. The Winborn Consulting Report is an agenda item that has been released on the record. It's been, the public's had a chance to read it. We've read it, and I don't think you can deviate from item D, public comments on agenda item, because you don't want us to speak before the report is officially presented. It's been put out, it's online right now. We've got a copy of it, it's electronically, we've printed out, so
Okay,
I don't
so-
believe you can limit our speech on that agenda item D to allow for public comments now on agenda items. I don't think you can make us wait till after your vote. And you might need legal representative, I'm just
Okay.
looking out
all
for you,
right,
because you cannot
fine,
limit the free speech there.
You can make your comments according to the agenda,
Thank you.
It adheres strictly to 3
and
minutes.
you adhere strictly to the 3 minutes that you're allotted. Yeah, I'm not, it's not.
Okay.
Since you chose to do it this way, it's okay.
James Melnick, President, IFF Local 1188. This is without a doubt one of the most impactful votes that many of you will ever make during your council tenure. Local 1188 wants to be on record. This Winborn report has several inaccuracies through its content. We request that we pause for a moment to get the report right. Let it also be on record that IFF Local 1188 intends to remain solvent, does not want to go away. In 2023, Council approved the use of nearly $70,000 of ARPA funds for Winborn to complete a report regarding fire department merger, which is less than credible. It is important for you to have full disclosure of information when making such an important decision toward the future of Harper Woods. Over the past several months, the union has made several requests for information via FOIA request, and the city has repeatedly refused to provide requested information, forcing the union to continue to jump through unnecessary hoops instead of being offered transparency. So if the union has struggled to receive information, can you be assured that you and City of Detroit have been provided accurate information, or are you both being sold a bill of goods here? There are a number of inaccurate findings. However, I only have 3 minutes to talk. This report states our fire department responds to nearly 1,900 combined runs per year, when in fact we respond to over 2,300 runs per year. With the addition of 1,500 runs into the City of Detroit, how often would your engine company be available for your community? Were you aware of the inaccuracy? Do you believe Detroit is aware of the actual run volume, or were they sold on the city being a lower call volume area? Isn't it your job as council members to make the most informed decisions possible? The Director of Public Safety was supposed to meet with Macomb County Sheriff's Association requesting assistance, yet I don't think he attended a single meeting. Instead, the fire chiefs received a large data request that most chiefs couldn't possibly complete, leaving you with poor data from Macomb County and a biased report. Residents recognize their city services as the face of the city. Many of your residents chose to move to your city because of the reputation of your city services. By bringing the Detroit Fire Department in, don't you think your residents will start to ask what's next? The union openly invites all of council to come to the fire department and allow us to have real discussions on city services and provide accurate data for our department. Thank you.
Hello, thank you for having us. Kevin Koshin, Harper Woods Fire Department, also 20521 Van Antwerp. When I'm not at 19617 Harper. And I say this because I've dedicated my life there for nearly 18 years, spent more time there than most firefighters with 30 years of experience. The titles and hats that I wear has made me an expert in the fire service, incident command, mitigating any emergency, and much like the last 72 hours, filling notebooks of things that you need to hear that cannot be said in 3 minutes. The truth of the matter is this is far too complex and too big of a conversation to have to vote yes on today. Whether it's a fire model or a public safety model, what if I told you that none of this needs to even be happening? There's other such simple ways that don't involve us bringing an ambulance, 12 firefighters, or even 6. As a fire chief, wearing that hat now, because I contractually can determine the size of the workforce, not that I have the final say, but we need a little help, if any, not an entire city of Detroit to take 75 years of the Harper Woods Fire Department away. The report, and I'm thanking you for letting us speak beforehand, because the original report claims that the fire service model was not sustainable without significant change. That change did happen, and it happened June 14th, 2023, not April, like the report states. A minor detail, but still a detail. It claims that East Point has an ambulance. They do not. Claims that if we went with Macomb County Mutual Aid, that the Grosse Pointe Mutual Aid would stop. That is false. Keeps referring to Detroit bringing fire officers in, incident commanders. I want you to please remember that is exactly what we do. That's our expertise. 16 firefighters from Detroit promised with infinite backup on a fire, but it's followed by the words likely and possible when implying cost. The first fire that I had when we took over with the Grosse Points under the new act, I had 19 firefighters, 19 personnel. It was like fire heaven. I didn't know what to even do with myself. Didn't know what to do with the guys. But we get into the Detroit sections. Engine 50, 52, and 58, the total responses are listed. Our real numbers put us up there with the busiest of those Detroit stations. And if they have the numbers listed in the report, it's no wonder they think that they can come and take over. 2017, we're listed at 122 calls for ENFRs. Our real number is 2,307. 2018, we're listed at 186. It's 2,311. 2019,
Your time is up.
thank you. Detroit can't double their workload and extend their borders.
Scott Bala, 6th District Vice President, Michigan Professional Firefighters Union, representing and supporting the Harper Woods Firefighters 1188 and encouraging a no vote, or at least a table vote on this decision to continue talks with Detroit. Again, you've heard already, I'm just going to kind of wrap it up and summarize that the city spent $70,000, I believe it was, on this report, and just in a few hours, we were able to find the number of inaccuracies already. You definitely did not get what you paid for with that report, for starters. So I don't know how you can make a decision on that report. Who knows how many more inaccuracies are in it? One thing we know the report says is that the PSO model is unsustainable, so we do need another model, and that is the proud tradition of the Harper Woods firefighters. I'm a retired Roseville battalion chief, worked 30 years there, retired in 2022, and I was around when Harper Woods had transporting ambulances and fully staffed fire department. And I'd like to see those days come back, and you can start to get to that in pieces. You can add 3, then add 3 more, and you can get back into the Macomb County mutual aid agreement, which they're really not out of. And again, the director never met with the Macomb County fire chiefs. As long as you can maintain a minimum of 3 personnel on a rig, you can continue to give and receive services through Macomb County, which Harper Woods had done for a number of decades. And as was part, even though you're in Wayne County, they were a longtime member of the Macomb County Mutual Aid Agreement and the Fire Chiefs Association. So there is an avenue there that the report seems to dismiss because of cost. We don't know what the cost of the Detroit model is yet because it's not in the report. Our FOIA request to try to get that cost was, pushed back every time. We've had to jump through multiple hoops as a union to get the FOIA information. I am sure the acting city manager has that number. I'm sure he's been told the number, and it'd be nice if he would tell us that projected number now so we can start to get some real answers about that. The council should be asking him what conversations you've had with the city of Detroit and how much are they going to charge us for this engine company. And then we can start to put some real numbers on the table about maintaining your own fire service and having control. You're going to lose a lot of control once you sign your life over to Detroit. And you'll have less control about how you operate and the operations of your fire department. So again, let's support and ask that you do not vote to continue negotiations with the city of Detroit this time. Get this report right. Demand accuracy from Winborn. Because you did not get what you paid for with that $70,000, I'll tell you that. Just by a little bit, I've had a chance to look at it now. So I leave with that, and I hope you continue to support the Harper Woods firefighters.
Is that all?
Yeah, my name's Larry Hakeem. I live on Little Stone Road, 20-year resident of Harper Woods. In the Winborn report, it says, quote, if Harper Woods merged with Detroit, it believes that the city would need to adopt Detroit's policy for emergency medical support responses, which is considered to be more restrictive than Harper Woods' current practices. Yet it doesn't elaborate on any individual thing as to what would be more restrictive. Does that mean you only get an ambulance on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday? Does that mean you only get it between 9 and 5? It doesn't say anything about that, but the Winborn report does say there's going to be considerable more restrictive changes. Also, in my own personal research of Winborn, I don't only have a couple minutes, but I found 3 cities that did not hire Winburn to do their analysis, even though they were the lowest bid, because of their reputation and the fallacies in their reporting to the other cities that these other cities researched. So if we go by spending 70 grand as the cheapest thing to spend to get a report that is obviously flawed, and then to try to get rushed through the thing and put out to pasture as residents as you try to railroad another item through the city council and through this city because it sounded good or looked good at one of your meetings is shameful. The thought that you would even attempt to disregard this part of the agenda and open this microphone to the residents who are affected by everything you do is shameful. And every one of you, including you, Madam Mayor, should be ashamed for the attempt you made at the beginning of this meeting to silence the residents.
It wasn't
And then
to silence
say
your residents.
you're working in the best effort of the residents.
No.
Thank you.
No, don't even, you don't have to explain to nobody like that. Forget it. Oh, Lord.
Hello, my name is Jacqueline Lovrance. I live on the corner of Buffet and Dupree. There has been 2 fire instances, Miss Mayor, within the last 2 years that the actual Harper Woods Fire Department saved many properties. One was a garage explosion that I'm sure picked up on the electronic vibration, and they were there in 30 seconds to save my neighbors' homes. I actually dropped off a card with their signatures and bought their lunch. That was perhaps maybe 2 years ago. A year before that, there was a hot spot in my wall I picked up because, as you already know, Madam Mayor, I'm a very sensitive person. The fire department was there within 45 seconds saving my home. I maintain 4 properties in the city of Harper Woods, and I would appreciate your consideration to what they say, active duty, their job every day. We the people are waking up, Madam Mayor. We are tired of this master plan agenda. There are 3 branches of government. We are here. You represent us. We're really getting tired. I want all the information, the new information, the old information, the disinformation, and the misinformation. I want all the information, Madam Mayor. I voted for you because you got my fire department a brand new fire truck. I come to a meeting and you want to combine with 1, 2, 3, 5 other cities. Let me tell you my experience from 5 other cities. 2 different Wednesday occasions, all our local fire department were all meeting for lunch. It was the same Wednesday, 2 different weeks in a row. The second week, I said to the gentleman as I was having a cigarette, my husband was paying the bill. I said to one of the fire people, I said, you know, there isn't going to be a civil war. There's going to be a revolution. And that police officer said to me, we certainly hope so. Again, 3 branches of government. And this stops. The people says it stops. We did not vote for this retail dope, Madam Mayor. We did not vote for this retail dope. And you did the same thing on that agenda for the people to speak up. You made us stay here till 12:30 at night to hear public comment as you jumped through the agenda the same way that you did today. History repeats, Madam Mayor. Can we please learn from our mistakes? Perhaps a few more Benjamins need to step down. Now, as far as the millage is concerned with the Helm, I think that consideration should take part in the reconstruction that Ty is presenting to us with a new community center. I'm sure you got the information that I dropped at the clerk's office. I asked her to kindly distribute it to everyone.
Time is up.
I appreciate you.
No one else? I need a resolution to support the consent agenda.
Madam Mayor,
Yes?
I'll offer the resolution to approve the consent agenda items 1 through 8.
Support.
Discussion. Roll call vote, Mrs. Franks?
Councilwoman Costantino.
Yes.
Councilman Jenny.
Yes.
Councilwoman LaPrat.
Yes.
Councilwoman Sawicki.
Yes.
Councilman Tucson.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Williams.
Yes.
Mayor Kindle.
Yes.
Okay, resolution passes.
That takes us to old business, and since we have none, go to new business and city manager's report.
Okay, item G1, Winborn Consulting LLC Fire Merger Report. Mayor and Council, we have received the Winborn report detailing a deep analysis of fire services and other matters related to public safety services currently in Harper Woods. The analysis was researched and compiled using the criteria as directed from the City Council resolution from August of last year. In summary, it has been concluded the Public Safety Administration felt all along and should not be a surprise to anyone on the City Council. We will have representatives from Winborn to guide the City Council through slide presentations and be available for any questions you may want to ask. If there are no objections, I would like to move forward and begin negotiations with the City of Detroit to merge the city's fire services. Mayor, I guess right now would we be presenting the
yes.
Winborn report?
Okay, Mayor and Council, my name is Charles Jennings. I'm the principal consultant working on the report with Winborn Consulting. I also was the lead consultant on the 2022 report that we prepared for the city. And so I'll continue with the presentation. Obviously, we'll not be able to address all the comments that were made thus far, but I understand that will be some opportunity for that as we go through. And so with that, we'll start the presentation. Oh, yeah, I have the clicker. That's the pen. Okay. And so just to bring everybody up to speed on where we are and how we got here, in 2021, the City of Harper Woods contracted Winborn Consulting to do a review of the cost and service levels of the fire protection services. That project consisted of an assessment of the current level of service being provided and a financial analysis of current costs for the fire department and the fire service function, which is not all of which is under the fire department's budget. And then in 2023, we were retained again after the council had identified 3 particular service alternatives. And those 3 alternatives were to upgrade internal service and strengthen Grosse Pointe's mutual aid pact, upgrade and re-enter, become active with the Macomb County Mutual Aid Consortium. And the third was to consider a contract for service or merger with the City of Detroit. Just to summarize, as we ended on the previous report, these slides come from the 2022 presentation that we made. We felt then, and the city did not feel, that the public safety officer model, which you're currently using, was sustainable, predominantly because the city's fiscal position makes the difficulty in retaining the PSO workforce is difficult to maintain. It is difficult to attract police officers who also have the fire training, and it puts the city at a competitive disadvantage. As a consequence, it is difficult for the public safety department to maintain the adequate number of PSOs to supplement the current fire force. At the same time, the number of firefighters employed by the city has declined to such a small number, which is 6, as to be borderline unsustainable. So you've got, on any given shift, 2 personnel on duty. to fire personnel. Relying on these personnel for 24-hour coverage, you have a challenge in that because you have such a thin coverage, if there's any illness or long-term absence, it puts the city immediately into a disadvantageous position with regard to having to cover overtime. And the personnel within the Public Safety Department are trying to continue the efficacy of the PSO model. However, the public safety staffing overall is inadequate to sustain a significant fire-related workload while maintaining law enforcement strength, patrol strength in the field. So for the current report, we compiled statistics on incidents, response times, and staffing. We found that the patterns from the 2022 report remained consistent. I know response numbers were questioned, and we can revisit those, but these are the numbers that were provided to us by the city, and they are consistent with the data that we had used in the 2022 report. So for each scenario, we did our best to acquire relevant policies that usually consisted of a extant mutual aid document, and we had those for Macomb and for Harper and for the Grosse Pointes. Obviously, there is no existing document for Detroit. We acquired incident data and unit workload data as we were able to. We estimated nearby units availability. We estimated mutual demands on Harper Woods, and we evaluated the advantages and disadvantages of each option with the goal of determining which was feasible or most feasible and advantageous and worthy of further consideration. So with regard to upgrading services and maintaining the arrangements with Grosse Pointes, and as was pointed out, I don't know if it said in the report it was April, but it was June of '23. The city executed a automatic aid agreement with the Grosse Pointes, and as it reflects in our report, it's a very positive step, and that increases the number of personnel responding in a timely fashion, which was something that we identified as a concern in the previous document. If there is a plan to go for 6 additional firefighters, in other words, to get up to 4-person staffing, that would be an additional fiscal impact of $1.1 million annually. The demand for service essentially would remain unchanged from what you're doing right now in light of the automatic aid agreement that's been executed, and by all accounts from the fire department, that agreement is working well. That response yields an engine and ladder coming into Harper Woods, 9 to 12 personnel by our count on an initial alarm, and it continues the close integration of both police and fire mutual aid between the communities as it exists. The second option was to upgrade and to re-enter the mutual aid agreement with Macomb County. Initially, the city approached East Point and St. Clair Shores, and those municipalities deliver aid within the context of the county mutual aid plan, and so it was determined that the way that agreement would be articulated would be through Harper Woods re-entering or entering the Macomb County mutual aid agreement. The plan, by its policy, requires 4 personnel on duty with a minimum of 3 personnel responding to a mutual aid request. A 4th firefighter must be available at the Harper Woods station or any station that's providing aid to assist any potential mutual aid companies that may respond into the city. It further requires the city to employ, if you were going to match those staffing levels, additional 6 firefighters with, again, the same fiscal impact of $1.1 million. An additional agreement is possible for automatic aid by negotiation directly with the nearby cities, as we understand it. Macomb County does accept and operate with public safety officers, and so those personnel would potentially be able to respond and potentially be committed into Macomb County. It's expected that entering into a Macomb County agreement would invalidate the Fire Mutual Aid Pact with the Grosse Pointes. And then by deploying PSOs throughout Macomb County, potentially there would be additional drain on Harper Woods police resources. We made a request, as was mentioned earlier. A fairly thorough, voluminous request was made to the nearby jurisdictions. That request was subsequently modified and reduced to be less onerous for them. And we got data from only one of the communities. And so we fell back to national incident data, the National Fire Incident Reporting System. That's data that's reported up through the State Fire Marshal's office into the national database, and we used those numbers in the report. But we were unable to estimate impacts of automatic aid due to limited data. However, for mutual aid, we estimated it would be approximately 75 responses annually. Once again, this is just showing Harper Woods Fire Station and its location at the center of the city and their ability to provide service. This happens to be a 1.5 mile travel time, and you will see that, which is the insurance industry standard, and you'll see that that engine company can provide service into some of the neighboring communities based on the geography of the city. The last alternative that we reviewed was the City of Detroit. Everything that we say in here is subject to negotiation. We did a good faith effort to work with the data that was provided by the City of Detroit. But again, this was not any negotiations taking place. There were a number of questions that we have that would be obviously resolved once the negotiations start to take place. But the general outlines of that would be that the City of Detroit would provide a staffed engine company in the Harper Woods Station, and all services as are provided to the City of Detroit, including rescue, hazardous materials, specialized rescue management, including responding a battalion chief into Harper Woods when necessary. The engine located at Harper Woods would be supplemented by neighboring Detroit stations operating under their normal response policies, meaning that they would, in a event of a structural alarm, you would receive a dispatch of 22 personnel on the initial assignment, which would include 3 engines, a ladder, a squad, and 2 chiefs. The existing Harper Woods staff presumably would transition to employment with the Detroit Fire Department. But again, that's subject to negotiation. The workload, the unit at Harper Woods would be fully integrated into the Detroit Fire Department, meaning that it would respond without regard to the Harper Woods-Detroit boundary, meaning that the utilization of that unit would increase because they would be providing service within the City of Detroit to those alarms in which they may be closest, as well as providing second due or third due support to full responses that are proximate to the city right now. Our calculation of that workload in Detroit is on the order of 8 to 9% utilization, meaning that that unit, even if it picked up that additional burden, would remain in service within Harper Woods over 90% of the time. Utilizing the Detroit's EMS engine company response protocols, there would be no change in EMS delivery. EMS transport would continue to be provided by MedStar as we understand it. Again, Detroit does not respond on as broad a range of medical calls with their engine company as Harper Woods is currently doing, as we understand it. And so we would expect that if the city took on Detroit's response policy, and again, this is not subject to, sitting down across the table and hashing these issues out, there would be a reduction in EMS responses for the Harper Woods engine. and an increase in responses into Detroit. However, Harper Woods would gain access to an immediate response from DFD, specialty, and routine backup from nearby Detroit companies. So when the Harper Woods engine was out of service or at an alarm, there would be additional backup units coming in to support them. The cost implications, again, are a question mark. Due to resource sharing, it's likely, we say likely because we have not sat down, the city has not sat down to begin any formal negotiations, but it's presuming that by sharing services, some proportion of the service cost would be shared between the two communities, which would reduce the cost to Harper Woods. There would also be some management benefits for the Public Safety Department. That is, under a contract for service, there would be a shift from day-to-day operational management to more of a contract and service level management administration on the part of the Public Safety Director. However, Detroit does not work with public safety officer agencies, meaning that the Grosse Points Fire Mutual Aid Agreement presumably would end. Detroit EMS support, as we indicated, would likely result in fewer responses to low acuity medical calls. Again, that has to be worked out when negotiations are done. And it does address issues, however, of using PSOs, removing that burden from them and leaving them more available for their core mission of police services. So to summarize here, the three alternatives, the Grosse Points and Macomb, basically the advantages for Grosse Points, it continues, you know what you're getting it now. However, if you indeed want to move forward with hiring those personnel to get up to 4 per shift, that's got a fiscal impact of $1.1 million. You will still have reliance on public safety officers to a lesser degree, but they would still need to maintain that functionality and that role. Under Macomb, you'd likely see a similar level of service with additional response of firefighters coming in on mutual aid, potentially automatic aid under the Macomb County agreement. It's likely that you would see a higher utilization of Harper Woods going into the Macomb County jurisdictions than you're seeing now in the Grosse Points agreement, just because they have a higher levels of activity in those cities, particularly East Point and St. Clair Shores. Again, the fiscal impact remains the same. The issue with PSOs remains. It is likely that if the agreement with Macomb County is entered into, that could endanger the Grosse Points Fire Mutual Aid Agreement. And again, the PSOs under that Macomb County agreement potentially could be deployed on fire incidents more geographically remote from Harper Woods than they are now under the Grosse Points agreement. And then lastly, under Detroit, you have 16 personnel assigned, 4 officers, 12 firefighters to give you 4 people on duty. A full complement of resources in accord with NFPA 1710 would be responding on structural alarms. You have a dedicated incident management support in the form of battalion chiefs, which you don't have now. That function is fulfilled by your on-duty firefighters while they're trying to engage in fire suppression or emergency mitigation efforts. It has the potential to be cost-effective due to sharing of personnel. And once again, under this, if you abandon the public safety model altogether, there are cost savings within the Public Safety Department with regard to training and equipment for the public safety officers, and it makes them more available for their core mission of policing. The disadvantages, the city of Harper Woods would become dependent upon the city of Detroit for a core service. But again, that's something that could be dealt with in a contract process. And again, going in with Detroit would terminate, in all likelihood, the fire mutual aid agreements with the Grosse Points because Detroit will not cooperate with a public safety officer department. So we recommend to the council, based on our analysis, that the city go forward with negotiations. We feel that it offers the potential to greatly enhance fire service capabilities. It reduces the burden that were identified under the PSO model, and it is potentially the least cost impact of the alternatives. EMS transport with MedStar would remain unchanged under potential agreement. And that's our presentation. So I'll be happy to take any questions from the council and mayor.
Okay, thank you. We'll start with questions from the city council.
Madam Mayor,
Mm-hmm.
I have several, so I'll go through some of my questions. Well, one, how many PSOs do we have?
Jason?
Currently, the police department total has 22, and I believe with our latest addition, we have 12 PSOs.
Okay. Okay, and how many engines do we have?
One.
Engine.
It's just one fire engine?
I'm sorry, we have a backup engine. We have 2 engines.
Okay, we have 2 engines, and
Well, one is staffed.
one is staff. Okay, and from our August meeting until this meeting, we still have just 2 fire people, personnel on duty?
Mm-hmm.
Still-
The policeman, the PSO is the one who fights the fire.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Yeah.
What was the question, Councilwoman?
My question was, from our August meeting, when we identified at that time that we did not have enough personnel, are we still under that same motto, just 2 on shift?
Two firefighters on shift at a time, correct. So there's 3 shifts, 2 each.
Okay. I see in this model that, okay, because I know at our last meeting, we did ask for St. Clair Shores and East Point, and I really don't see much data about St. Clair Shores or East Point, so were we just not able to get anything from those 2 communities?
They're not interested.
If I can speak to that a little bit, we put out a data request, an initial data request to several communities in Macomb County that we thought we would primarily respond to in a mutual aid situation. And we got nothing back. So we revised the data request to make it a lot easier on them to produce that data. Still didn't get any back. So the only information that we did end up getting was from East Point, and that was facilitated by Lieutenant Melnick. So we did get at least that data. And East Point is one of the communities that we would primarily respond to. They're obviously, we border them. So.
Okay, and do you know roughly about what type of model East Point have? Is it like ours?
East Point's separate, police and fire.
Okay.
Yep. They have a standalone fire department, a standalone police department, as does St. Clair Shores.
Okay, and if Harper was merged with Detroit, how many personnel will that affect? Is it just the fire department, or is it part of the, is it just the fire department that's going to affect?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
And how does that affect their jobs? Will they still?
It wouldn't affect their job. Nobody will lose their jobs. The firefighters that we have working in the city would be employed by Detroit. Nobody would lose money. Nobody would lose their job. They would be working in the same building. The only difference is that there would be 16 firefighters, and when you count the PSOs, we would have more firefighters than the city has ever had in its history. And we wouldn't have to pay $1.2 million every single year, and that's not even including equipment. You know, to be adding another 14 mills on everybody's taxes when we're the highest tax city in the state is just crazy. Everybody wants their taxes to be reduced, But when you put forth a plan that does it, here's what you get. People that never attend a meeting that come here opposing it.
I'm sorry, I get a lot of questions if I ask
Okay.
more.
Okay,
Okay,
it's here for you to answer
Sure.
now.
okay, both of the plans for Macomb County and for the other one, Grosse Point's, estimated to be about 1.1 million. What cost would the new plan be for us, roughly?
For Detroit,
Yeah.
we have to go in and negotiate the deal. The resolution tonight is just to authorize the city manager's team to go in and to negotiate a deal. Certainly, we're gonna try to get the best, most cost-effective deal. That is Larry, please.
Okay, don't respond to him.
We're trying to get the best effective deal for the city that meets our needs here at the most cost-effective price. We know where the sweet spot is on the deal, and I mean, I can't exactly lay out our poker hand, but we know exactly where the deal is, and it's all gonna come back to the city council for review. We just want the ability to be able to talk with the city of Detroit because all the facts are pointing to that being the best deal. And the safest one, and the best for insurance rating. Currently, the ISO rating, and Charles, please correct me if I'm wrong, that is the rating the state uses to gauge fire insurance rates. That, I believe our rating in Harper Woods is 5. The city of Detroit's is 2. We would be leveling up to a 2 from a 5. Our fire department cannot get any better. It's only gonna get worse if we keep this model. And if we hire additional firefighters, it comes at the expense of laying off police officers. Don't let any of this rhetoric confuse you. That's exactly what will happen.
Okay, and the mills that we voted on recently for the fire department and the police department, how would that factor into it then?
That's keeping the current system afloat. We would need millions on top of that, and we have no ability of doing that. We'd have to cut services in other areas to create the money for that personnel.
I'll stop with my questions and probably come back with a few more.
Okay, sure, not a problem.
Okay, next person.
Madam Mayor? I know that if we move to using Detroit, obviously, I mean, Winborn provided us with a map that kind of shows where the Detroit stations, their boundaries, this sort of thing. And Harper Woods is convenient to, you know, the far east side of the Detroit area. But I know that our police officers are not part of this, obviously. But my question goes to radio command equipment and this sort of thing. Will we be able to dispatch, you know, our radio equipment linked to Detroit? Because I assume that we would still provide for shared police services with the Grosse Points the way we have been. And I know that our radio system interfaces with the Grosse Point system just fine, but I'm just wondering, will we be able to send those emergency calls to Detroit the way we do our police to the Grosse Points? I don't know if you understand my question.
I understand your
Yes.
question.
Charles, would you
Yeah,
like to
let me
explain?
just start by saying that that's an excellent question. That's a question beyond the threshold of where we are in terms of discussing with Detroit. But there are technological solutions for that, and there are a number of different arrangements that could be made to permit interoperability and transfer of calls between Harper Woods and Detroit. But those are questions that would come after
Negotiating.
the negotiations. And whether you're serious about moving forward, those are the questions that would quickly come up. But we did not it would be strictly a hypothetical for us to try to address those at this point.
Madam Mayor, another question, and I guess this has more to do with our police services as well, because currently we have 12 PSOs. Those officers receive a bonus for being PSOs, and not just, single department. I don't want to lose any of them. This puts us in a very interesting conundrum because we have well-trained officers who do a good job for our community. And if we move to complete separation, they would become very attractive to
Other
some-
communities.
Yes.
Yes.
And so like I said, I don't want to lose those officers. But if we are also going to maintain some sharing with the Grosse Pointes through the police department, do we utilize our PSO officers in response to services in the Grosse Pointes? I don't understand how this would work, and I just want to get a clearer understanding.
I think at this point right now, to answer that question honestly, would have to be something that we would do in negotiations, as John would be negotiating those kind of terms. Jason, do you have any input on that?
I'm not 100% sure on the question. I can tell you that our PSOs and our police officers respond in both capacities to the points.
Okay, would we lose, is there any reason why the Grosse Pointes would cut us off?
If we entered into an agreement with either Macomb County or Detroit Fire Department, I've had discussions with the Grosse Pointe chiefs where they have said that they would nullify our fire agreements with the Grosse Pointes.
But they would maintain police?
We would still maintain the police mutual aid pact with the points, which would affect our SRT team, everything.
Right, I just wanted to make certain that that wasn't jeopardized by our thought of going into a different model for fire.
Only on the fire end.
Okay.
Right.
I know I had another question, but I'll hold on.
Yes, go ahead. You had another question?
I did, but I don't have it on the tip of my tongue, so I'd rather pass along to someone else and come back.
Well, some of the questions I'm hearing are like, just almost like you just said, by actually talking with Detroit at this point, we can come back to you with those kind of answers. No decision is going to be made on this right now. It's just a matter of being able to talk. In a democratic society, I thought everybody would like to hear all sides of everything. And this is an opportunity for us to do this and actually look at our department and see where we can actually save money. Because our fire department is costing us a great deal, and when you kind of weigh it with the amount of business, I don't want to say business, but amount of incidents they have to reply to, it's really kind of lopsided. So I would, I just think we need to hear everything, and all we're trying to do is just hear, not necessarily say, yes, this is the way it's going to be tonight.
Okay.
Yeah, Mayor, I remember what my question was, if you don't mind my asking.
Yes, go ahead.
All right, the question I had that I couldn't remember had to do with hiring firefighters. It's my understanding, I heard that St. Clair Shores was down 13 firefighters, that firefighters are hard to hire, that they're hard to find. If we decided to go with the model where we would need to hire new firefighters, are they available?
The firefighters could probably speak better to that. How many applicants do we have for the last position?
It's been a while since we accepted applicants.
Okay.
So we did have roughly 10 applications, I believe, for the one position that was open.
So,
And it was open a very short period of time, and that was all through advertising the union.
okay. So it's a little better than police recruitment? Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, I halfway remember some of my other questions. It seems like it's been a long time since we've actually hired any fire people, firemen. Because the application, from what I just heard, I didn't hear the year, so I don't know what year that was, but it seems like it's been a long time. And also, I think what prompted this whole investigation of the men board trying to find out what is our best solution to this is that we don't have enough personnel, right? Is that we only have 2 people on shift. And that's why I asked the question about between August and now, has anything changed? Knowing that in August, that there was an issue of not enough personnel, it doesn't seem to me like anything has changed. I was wondering whether we had talked with our fire department and, with, I don't know, the union, to see if they had been thinking from August to now of any changes? Or is it that some people still want to maintain what we have without change?
We have put into the collective bargaining agreements of the firefighters that they have the ability to bargain over the effects of a transition. It's very obvious we can't continue this model. Engines are going to break down. As the report revealed, you could have you can have an injury on the job. We can't use our public safety officers as part of shift strength for the firefighters. So they were really, they got a chokehold on the city. And again, to hire 6 additional firefighters comes at the expense of laying off, terminating police officers. We do not have $1.1 million every single year, plus. It's not feasible. It's not economically feasible. We're pursuing all the bad habits that we're trying to get away from in the past. And the big elephant in the room with Macomb County, do you want your police officers to be used all the way in Romeo and Ray Township and everything else? That's what's gonna happen.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's what's gonna happen. You
Okay,
guys know.
we're not having,
Yeah.
okay, we have order here, so everybody speak when you have the opportunity. Is there anyone else on council that wish to speak? Cheryl?
You go
No, you
first.
go in, no.
To me, I'm looking at Detroit that has some interest in emerging with Harper Woods. And from what I understand, there is some sort of a funding that Detroit is going to be able to get this additional branch. So to me, during the negotiation process, I'd like to hear what type of funding that could be, because that means it could give us additional funding to improve our whole police facilities and even make it available for more women to be able to be on the force, because we'll have better accommodations, and it could seem some of that funding could flow right into us and we benefit both sides. So I'm really interested in negotiation and hearing about it.
Okay, I have a number of questions and things to say. First of all, would our fire specialists be guaranteed their wages and their rank?
I can't speak to that. Are you referring to a merger with Detroit?
Yes.
I can't speak to that.
That's negotiation.
It's negotiations. Nobody's gonna lose money. I'll say that. We're not even gonna come back here with a deal if anybody in here loses a penny.
Okay. Would our firefighters be given the opportunity to transition to public safety officers or police officers within our own city, if they would choose to do that instead of working for Detroit?
That's up to them.
Interesting question. I don't know. I don't think that they would want to do that. However, if they applied, I obviously have a relationship with them and know them well, but I can tell by the snickers behind me that they probably wouldn't be on board with that.
Well, I just would like to see if they would have the opportunity if they wanted to stay employed with our city. How many mills would our assessment, our police or fire assessment be reduced if we did this?
All depends on a negotiation, but yes, we're looking at reducing the tax burden here and getting better service. So I can guarantee you that stepping in this direction, I would love to come to the table and reduce Public Act 33. Yes, I would, the other ones, forget it, it's going the other way. This will take it down the other way.
A lot
A reduction.
Like 1 mill
Well,
or 7 mills?
I can't, again, we have to negotiate the deal. You have to give us permission to go in and begin negotiations with the city of Detroit to see where we're at. If they are too costly, then obviously we have to sit and look and explore another model. But I don't think that's gonna be the point. And again, we know the sweet spot there, and if we're able to get to that sweet spot, then, you know, again, just like everything else, it's going to be a benefit for the city.
Would we have the opportunity to terminate terminate the deal if we don't feel that it's gonna benefit our residents?
That's negotiations, and certainly, if it's not working for us, yes, we'd have to be able to find a way out.
We're gonna vote on this again.
Why would we have to terminate our mutual aid with Grosse Pointe? I mean, if we're getting 16 fire specialists, it seems to me we would be more attractive to Grosse Pointe,
But-
not less attractive.
Detroit Fire Department does not work with public safety officers. They're a standalone fire
I know, but if
department.
they had a, multi-alarm fire, I would think,
No, they're not gonna do that. It's just, they're not gonna do it.
all right. If this did go through, would our police availability and response time improve?
I could speak to the availability. Of course, common sense would dictate that if the police officers don't have to do dual duty, that sure, that they would remain on the street in a police capacity more often.
Will we be retaining their staffing levels?
I would hope so. I don't, yeah.
Okay. I kind of have feelings in both directions, so I'm really, really contemplating this and seeing what our arrangement would be. I did have a good experience with the Detroit Fire Department when one of my rentals on Kingsville caught fire. The Detroit Police Department got there before Harper Woods, and they had the fire put out and had the whole situation handled before Harper Woods even got there. But what about in the north end of the city? Would they be confused, trying to find their way on Danbury Lane or some of the trickier roads, Williamsburg or...
Are you talking about it if Detroit came into Harper Woods?
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, just like with any new position that you'd take, if I had to go to be a police officer in East Point right now, it'd take a while to find my way around those streets. So there would probably be a little bit of a break-in period, but with the technology of GPS, and you can find stuff pretty quick.
Will we make a priority of having someone who's experienced in Harper Woods on every shift?
That I can't speak to. I just can't tell you that. I don't know.
Is that something we could bargain?
Negotiate.
Yeah, well, that's something we can add.
One thing that concerns me, I've talked to people in the Detroit Fire Department, and I've heard comments to the effect of, if they don't have their own house in order, how are they gonna take care of our house?
Mm-hmm.
Those are things that I've heard from Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
That's something we gotta think about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, have they gotten their house more in order, or, what are we looking at?
I mean, again, I can't speak to that. But sure, it's a concern.
The other thing I was concerned about, I don't feel ready to make a decision on this yet, but I'm concerned Detroit might want to do this because of their lack of staff. They might want to poach our talent. You know, and then take some of our people to work for them and maybe move them out of our city into other places. And that would be a loss to our residents. So there's quite a few different types of concerns that are out there. This has to be studied very, very carefully. I'm sure the agreement, that we made with them would have to include a lot of these concerns, because we don't want them, taking our firefighters, especially like the first year or two. We want to keep our guys here, because the other firefighters would still be learning the city and learning how we do things and such.
Understood.
So these are all things, concerns that I've had, and I know everybody else has their own concerns. And the residents have come forward with a number of concerns as well. There's both good and bad in this possibility. So it's something I'm going to be watching very closely.
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Here we go.
Well, you were just saying you didn't want Detroit to take some of our police officers. From what I can hear, them in the background and observe them, they have no interest whatsoever into moving over in, to leaving out the police department going to,
Okay,
right. So it would just be,
But they would be hired by Detroit, so Detroit would control their schedule. So we'd have to bargain in that they'd be allowed to stay here should they choose.
well,
So once they're hired by Detroit, it's like, when I moved to a different school district, I'm at the will of the school district. I could be pulled away from my school anytime. It's the same thing with the fire department. They could pull us away. We have to negotiate this into the agreement. This agreement is
that's a
very-
part
That's
of
the point.
negotiation.
This is something that we really, really have to watch over all of this, so we aren't bamboozled.
It wouldn't behoove us not to negotiate that we have what we need here in Harper Woods. Why would we negotiate something that would take firefighters from our city and leave us naked here in the city?
Exactly.
So therefore, that's
But it
all a
could happen
part.
if we're not careful.
Well, no, it would not happen because that would be all a part of negotiation. Why would we negotiate with them if they're gonna take away the firefighters?
Exactly.
That doesn't make sense. We might as well stay with what we have if we're gonna lose firefighters and representation. That's the whole point of negotiating. Is there anyone else who wants to speak?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I have two more questions. So if we merge with Detroit, what becomes of our PSOs? I think it's gonna be like just regular police officers and phase out the PSOs?
Chief, you may want to speak to that, but
If we merged with Detroit, there would be no reason for them to remain PSOs. I mean, they would keep their fire certification, which lasts forever, but, yeah. So they would just become standalone police officers at that point.
Madam Mayor, would they keep their salaries or would they lose?
That's something
their
that would be-
bonuses or whatever?
okay, Councilmember Williams had a second question here.
Yeah, my other question was, if our fire department merged with Detroit, then what happens to local 1188? Is that,
They go to whatever union is in the city of Detroit. There's an IAFF local, I don't know what the local number is, but they would be merged into their union. Councilmember Costantino, you had a question about?
Well, no, I was just worried about our police officers and their wages. Some have come
Oh,
to depend upon their supplement from being a public safety officer. That's why they did the.
They can address that through collective bargaining.
That will be addressed through collective bargaining. Are there any other questions? All right,
Mayor, a resolution is recommended.
Thank you, Mr. Wilbur. Thank you for the report. Thank you, Jason. I'm sorry, Chief. All right,
A resolution is recommended.
okay.
Madam Mayor, by resolution?
Yes.
By resolution to authorize the acting city manager to begin negotiations with the city of Detroit on behalf of the city to merge fire services.
Support.
Is there any further discussions?
Madam Mayor,
Mm-hmm.
I just want to apologize to you
That's okay.
because of what happened earlier in the meeting, and let the public know that it was my idea
Mm-hmm.
to allow the public to address council after the report was done, rather than addressing council at the beginning of the meeting.
You don't have to apologize about that.
I
It's
just wanted
okay.
the public to know that they were taking it on you.
I'm a big girl. All right. Any further discussion? Okay, let's have a roll call vote. Mrs. Franks?
Councilman Jenny.
No.
Councilwoman LaPrat.
Yes.
Councilwoman Sawicki.
Yes.
Councilman Tucson.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Williams.
Yes.
Mayor Kindle.
Yes.
Councilwoman Costantino.
I know, I'm not sure we're ready for this. There's so many questions, but I know.
This is not a commitment.
Okay, just to do the research.
Just to do the,
Okay.
negotiate, find out what we find out.
Yes, I see.
Okay.
Okay, resolution passes.
All right.
Okay, item G2, resolution authorizing the issuance of capital improvement bonds. Mayor and council attaches the bond authorizing resolution for the capital improvement bonds for your consideration. The resolution authorizes the issuance of the bonds not to exceed $1,260,000 to construct water supply system improvements, most notably and including lead service lines. The bond resolution authorizes various city officials to take the necessary actions to execute and deliver the bonds. All these steps are necessary and required by the Michigan Finance Authority. A representative from Clark Hill will be present to clarify any questions or concerns you may have at this time. Therefore, it is recommended that this resolution be adopted. Mayor, a resolution is recommended.
Madam Mayor?
Yes?
By resolution, adopt the attached bond authorizing resolution for the 2024 limited tax general obligation capital improvement bonds, drinking water state revolving funds bonds for lead service line replacements, and further to authorize the mayor to sign the resolution.
Support.
Any discussion?
Yes, Madam Mayor. At the last meeting, we approved a bid for $988,400 for lead service replacement contingent on the successful arrangements with this, Capital Improvement Drinking Water State Revolving Fund. I'm curious about, well, first of all, I know that this is a requirement of the state, so it's an unfunded mandate. However, we approved $988,400, and the bond is for $1,260,000. So I'm wondering about the disparity between one account and the other.
Pat, would you like to make comments?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Pat McGow here from Miller Canfield as your bond attorney. So you're correct that at the last meeting, the city received bids for the construction of the project, and you approved a tentative contract award for the construction cost, which was about $988,000. So this loan program is intended to finance not only the construction, but also the design engineering, the construction engineering, the issuance costs, and the contingency that the state has. So that 988 number ends up being approximately $1,258,000. And again, when we started this bonding process back in March, the number that you approved was not to exceed $2.5 million. So the number in this resolution is now about half that, $1,260,000. But also remember that you're getting 50% principal forgiveness. So the actual amount that you're going to pay back is about 51% of that. But the difference between what you approved at the last meeting and what's before you tonight is adding in those other items which are included in the financing.
All right. I knew that there was some sort of forgiveness thing, which.
And the forgiveness is not reflected in that $1,260,000. They do it after the fact.
Right.
All right, Mayor, I saw that the interest rate is 2%. How does that work with the forgiveness, and what is the cost going to be to our residents?
Sure. So the way this loan program works is that at closing, the city's going to sign documents saying we're borrowing $1,260,000, and that's the amount that you can draw from the program as you get those invoices to pay it. And what they do is they forgive those draws as they're made. So you're really only paying 2% on the loan portion, which is 51%. And you only pay interest as you draw it. So if it takes, a year, year and a half, whatever to do it, you're only paying interest on the amount that's been drawn.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? All right, roll call vote, Mrs. Franks.
Councilwoman LaPrat.
Yes.
Councilwoman Sawicki.
Yes.
Councilman Tucson.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Williams.
Yes.
Mayor Kindle.
Yes.
Councilwoman Costantino.
Yes.
Councilman Jenny.
Yes.
Okay, resolution passes.
Okay, item G3, City Hall air conditioning coil replacement. Mayor and council, attached is a memorandum from the DPW superintendent requesting approval to engage with K&S Ventures, Inc. for the much-needed repairs to the air conditioning system at City Hall. As her memo states, that while K&S has been making small repairs, they are no longer able to keep the air conditioning system up and running to provide efficient cooling. I have reviewed the proposals submitted by K&S and concur with Ms. Toussaint's recommendation that this repair be approved. Mayor, a resolution is recommended.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
by resolution, approve the proposal submitted by K&S Ventures Incorporated in the amount of $61,910 for the repair, replacement, installation of chiller coils for the air conditioning system at City Hall.
Support.
Okay, discussion?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
So I know we had talked about the complete replacement because it was so old. So the chiller coils and all of that, are we anticipating any additional costs above and beyond this, or is this basically the replacement?
Okay, I want to say at the beginning of the budget for last year, the City Council approved $125,000 to retrofit the air conditioning system throughout the building. This is one portion. There's going to be a Part B to this, and that's regarding the 911 call center and the units there, and specifically the air conditioning around the data systems that are very, very sensitive to heat. The chief is getting estimates, quotes right now. I believe they're maybe in the range of 40,000-ish, somewhere around there. I'm going to be asking you by the end of the week if we could go ahead and confirm a purchase to be on July's agenda, because if we had to wait till July and then have the work performed, we wouldn't have any air conditioning in City Hall until sometime in August. So we have put away, council has approved $125,000. It looks like we're going to spend maybe about $103,000, so we're under budget.
Are there any further discussion?
Madam Mayor, how long do we anticipate that these coils will last? I know we had a pump already that we put in. Now we have this, and then you're going to have part two. Will that essentially replace everything?
Heather, I know you got a bad leg.
That's okay. I gotta figure out how to walk on it one of these days. Good evening. Because of the age of the system, I cannot guarantee that this will fix everything. This will fix another major portion as it's split up into two zones that cool City Hall, one near down by the fire department, police department, and then the rest. We have made some significant purchases. The pump that we had installed last year, we can't use that pump unless we replace these coils. So it's not all incomplete, but it is a larger section of repairs that need to be made.
Once all of this work is done, is that essentially replacing the air conditioning system?
It should be functional and keep us nice and cool.
Oh. No promises.
No promises, but that's the plan.
And are there any warranties on these parts?
There'll be a year warranty on the parts and labor.
No.
But the last set of parts that we had, I believe it's a year. The last set of parts were, I want to say they were original to the pumps and original to the cooling system, so we've gone a good 50 years on the old parts.
Okay, let's hope.
Fingers crossed.
Are there any further discussions? Don't make her walk back and forth.
That's okay. Okay, thank you, Council.
Thank you. All right, roll call vote, Mrs. Frank?
Councilwoman Sawicki.
Yes.
Councilman Tucson.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Williams.
Yes.
Mayor Kindle.
Yes.
Councilwoman Costantino.
Yes.
Councilman Jenny.
Yes.
Councilwoman LaPrat.
Yes.
Resolution passes, and thank you from all the administration and City Hall.
Okay. Item G4, schedule a public hearing, neighborhood enterprise zone. Mayor and council, for the next stage in the development of the former Polpard Elementary School site, it is necessary for us to designate the area of 20506-20655 Lennon as a neighborhood enterprise zone. This designation will provide tax incentives for this development. We need to hold a public hearing to receive public input and comment prior to creating the NEZ. It is my recommendation that we hold the public hearing at your next meeting on July 8th, 2024. And I also have in expert attorney Richard Barr, who's an expert on neighborhood enterprise zones, brownfield, and developments of this sort to answer any questions you may have. Mayor, a motion is recommended.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I'll make the motion to schedule a public hearing to hear public input and comments on the designation of a neighborhood enterprise zone in the area of 20506 to 20655 Lennon for July 8th, 2024 at 7:00 p.m.
Support.
Okay. All right, why don't we have Mr. Barr come to the podium so that he'll be able to answer your questions.
Good evening, Richard Barr from the Hahnemann Firm. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have or provide any information you'd like.
Okay, any questions? Yes?
Can we just make the whole city a neighborhood enterprise zone?
Actually not. There are limits under state law as to how much the city can be in an NEZ, but it could be for other properties if that's part of what you envision in the future.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, and it's no, I don't have a problem with you speaking louder. Okay.
Sorry.
But anyway, tell me a little, this type of zone, what are some of the advantages of it? Give me a little bit more feel for what this means.
Sure. A neighborhood enterprise zone is one of several tax abatements that the state of Michigan allows a community to approve or to recommend that the state tax commission approves. This particular program is oriented either toward the construction of new homes or the rehabilitation of existing buildings, again, for residential purposes. In this particular case, the developer has requested that the city set up a zone, and if the city does set up the zone, then the developer can come back and request the issuance of certificates for each of the homes that are proposed to be built and sold to purchasers. If the certificate is then approved and issued by the state, the taxes on those homes would be at a lower rate. Under state law, for new homes, their tax would be at the rate of 50% of the statewide average for homes that are principal residences. Right now, the statewide average rate for a principal residence is approximately 34.5 mils, which is substantially lower than your rate for principal residences. And as a result, if you approve the certificate, the rate for those homes would be approximately 17.5 mils for a period of up to 12 years. There's a minor phase out that we can get into at a future time as to how that works, but in general, the purpose of it is to allow people to buy homes, have it be assessed at the appropriate rate, and pay a lower tax rate than would otherwise occur. This is used often in cities that have tax rates that are higher than the state average, and it allows an incentive to encourage builders to build homes so they can sell them at prices that become affordable for the purchasers, considering all the costs that a purchaser will have. When a purchaser goes to buy a home, like all of you may have done in the past, the bank will look at what your payments are, your principal, your interest, your insurance, and your taxes. So by the taxes being lower for that period of time, people are better able to obtain mortgages to buy the houses and then support the development and sale of those homes. This is a classic case where the program fits on all fours in terms of what the state has in mind. And if the city council decides to approve both the zone and then the certificates, it will allow a more affordable sale price and more people to be encouraged to buy the new homes.
Madam Mayor?
Yes?
All right, so if we are giving the neighborhood enterprise zones a discount on their taxes, substantial discount, what does that do to the property values of the rest of the city that is being taxed at the regular rate?
So this is maybe a macroeconomic question in terms of tax abatement theory, but the theory of the program is you're going to be getting more investment. You're going to have people moving into the community who are willing to buy new homes at prices that hopefully support an increase in the adjacent values as property values go up based upon comparables, hopefully easier to get mortgages to buy or resell or refinance a home. So it brings more revenue into the city. It's a reduced amount of new revenue compared to what it would be, but generally people would not pay the prices these houses are expected to sell for if they had to pay the full tax rate in the city. So the theory will be that it's going to bring more revenue and hopefully raise property values. It's certainly more direct for the homes that are in the zone. There are 71 proposed for this project. There'll be an indirect benefit, and I could not even begin to give you the economic theory of how far away from the property it actually occurs. You could probably ask the assessor better in terms of the spin-off effect of other properties, but it definitely brings new residents, new spending, and new tax revenue into the city.
And what would be the value or the purchase price of these homes anticipated?
I understand the sales price. I understand from the developer that it will be, the expected price will be in the low 200s, but that's something they'll get into at the presentation on July 8th. And again, at a future time when they come back to request the specific certificates for those homes. But if you don't mind, on July 8th, the developer plans to make a full presentation of the project, which I know you've heard in general in the past, but it'll be an update with a lot more specifics and they can answer those questions better themselves.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Okay, so if that area do become a neighborhood enterprise zone, will the new homeowner have to apply to get the taxes reduced each year? Or is it something that once they apply or get a certificate or whatever, that's just ongoing?
Once the certificate is approved by the city council and then issued by the state, it's permanent throughout the life of the certificate, as long as the home continues to be a principal residence for the purchaser, which the developer believes they will be. It's not available for new rental homes. It's not intended for rental products. It's intended to be primary residences for the owners. If it is, then it qualifies throughout the term of the certificate. It's also transferable to a purchaser. If they sell their home after 3 years or 5 or 7, the benefit goes with the property just upon notification to the state that they have a new buyer.
Yes.
One more question on that. A friend of mine who bought a home in Detroit in Victoria Park a couple of years ago was going through, that had that same sort of a tax abatement. I think it was for like 12 years. and then after that, she had to start paying more taxes. Well, up to 12 years old, it's gonna be like a balloon payment tax that pops up, or whether it's some kind of gradual flow, or?
So under the current law, which I hope has changed someday, but the current law is the current law, in the last 3 years of the abatement period, the taxes start to come back up. They phase back in. They phase in pretty rapidly. And it's something you have to make sure the homeowners understand. It's not a 25%, 50%, 75%. It actually goes up very, very significantly in the third to last year, a little bit more the next to last, and it gets to the full amount after the 12th year. So there is a need for people to understand and plan, depending on what the city's tax rate is then and what the assessment of the property is, to plan ahead. And that's one of the challenges with the program statewide, and it's one of the reasons why I'm trying to get people, including the MML and others, to support a change in the program so it doesn't change or go up so quickly at that point. But right now, that's been the law for 30 years.
Thank you.
If there's no further questions, thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Clark. Okay, roll call vote, Ms. Clark? No? Oh, that's right, it's a motion. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Motion carries.
And that concludes the city manager's report.
Okay, call the audience. He's first.
I don't. You're first? Okay. I don't need the mic, as you know, because my voice is kind of high. I live at 21401 Bournemouth. Across the street, I talked to Heather about it. There's a pump station over there. Well, there's cement, you know, like this. It's now bowing up. And where that is, there's two doors that are steel embedded in the concrete there. Now, if you don't know this, you should be ashamed of yourselves, because you should know everything about the city. But what's there, you open those doors and there's a thing that goes down 40 feet. Now that cement is bowing up, it's cracking, it needs to be replaced. It's a hazard. I've already seen, I sit on my front porch every day when it's okay, and kids are driving over with their bikes, they're hitting it, falling over. This little girl, 5 years old, running to her parents, hit that crack, and bam, she fell right on the grass. That's a lawsuit waiting to happen, which I am not willing to pay because you guys don't want to fix this damn thing. It needs to be fixed because that is city property, that is a hazard. Next thing, I've lived here going on 65 years, and I've never seen this in my lifetime. The people you paid that were supposed to fill all the cracks, you know, you were here, you got mad at me because I spoke up on it. Now what's happening in that whole street on Bournemouth, going from Harper to where our city ends to where Girls Point Woods comes in, there's weeds growing in them. I've never seen this in my lifetime. And it's all because the cracks were never filled. You paid for it and they didn't come back and redo it. So that's another hazard. And then there's another thing now that's happening when it's getting warm. I'm sitting on my porch, people are going down this street at 90, 100 miles an hour, and they're not even stopping at the stop signs. So what I want you to do, get off your butts, get in your cars, Kingsville and Tyrone. Go into the city of Detroit on that street on Tyrone. Check the speed bump that's there. It's not like the junk you put up on the streets we have. This speed bump is very effective because you don't notice it. And I talked to the gentleman that does the plowing when he plows the street. He said his plow goes right over it. But it is effective because if you go too fast, you're going to hit hard. That's what we need. Those type of speed bumps. Because the kids are getting out of school now. And as we all know, we were kids. When your ball or whatever, your toy goes in the street, you're going to go into it. No matter how much your parents told you, don't go in the street. You do. Well, with the way they're driving, and what our judge said that when she was in this meeting, that there's not much you can do because the tickets don't do any good, somebody's going to get killed. There's another lawsuit. And then the citizens are going to have to pay for this. So something's got to be done. And I think these are going to be effective. The next thing I want to know, well, oh, there you are, okay. He might be able to answer, maybe you might.
Your time is up, sir.
Well, I need to ask this
Mr.
question because I
Kraft.
need to know. Well, please, let me just ask this question. Because on this side of the city, you don't have to worry about it. But when I'm on this side, and the city of Grosse Pointe Woods drive up and down our streets all the time, and they give out tickets. Where does this money go when they give out the tickets? To the city of Grosse Pointe Woods or Harper Woods?
If the-
Can you answer?
It's public comment.
It's public comment. You have,
Oh, well, you're not going to answer, so that means it goes to the city of Grosse Pointe Woods.
Okay. Young lady, excuse me, she's next.
Oh, I'll go later, Madam Mayor. I had to take a breath. My thoughts were too fast. I have to slow down. Thank you kindly.
James Melnick, President, IFF Local 1188. IFF Local 1188 demands to bargain over tonight's decisions and its effects. And just so this is on record, and I'll follow up with an email tomorrow. Thank you.
Stop it. All right.
All right, Scott Bale, again, Michigan Professional Firefighters Union, 6th District Vice President. Just a couple things to take notes on for council as this process goes forward. I know I was going to start with the negotiations in Detroit, but budget vacancies, I can answer that question because St. Clair Shores is one of my locals. I have 38 locals in my district. They currently have no budget vacancies. Now, a lot of departments have vacancies to get them to increase their staffing, but what they have in their budget right now, last time I talked to their union president, was zero. As far as the recruitment retention that was brought up, that has been an issue with many careers right now, police and fire notwithstanding. Fire has made quite a bit of strides the last few years with a statewide recruitment retention program. Many cities, municipalities, employers have gone in and negotiated recruitment retention additions to their benefits to their firefighters and incentives to keep them and to get them. The last three fire academies, both in Macomb and Oakland County, have been beyond capacity. We've been turning people away, so this is going to take some time, but they put through 45 firefighters in the last academy. They're going to put 45 through again at Macomb Academy. Oakland's running through 30 a year. Takes about 2 years for someone to go from no training to be a firefighter or paramedic. So if you go all the way through the paramedic side, just to be a firefighter, it takes like 12 to 14 weeks depending on the academy, and then EMT. So the progress is being made on getting viable candidates. The SAFER grant. I don't know if the acting city manager has ever applied for the SAFER grant. That is an annual federal FEMA award, SAFER, the Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Person. I'm going to mess up the acronym myself. Staffing for Adequate Fire and Emergency Response. I personally helped fill out many of those for Roseville over the years. They typically run 3 years, and they pay the full cost, wages, and benefits for up to 3 years for fire personnel. It is just for fire. You do have to renew that every 3 years, but they cover the full cost. Doesn't cover the gear, overtime, but the full cost of base wage plus health care, 100% with no match. And unfortunately, the latest one, the application period just closed, but there's an annual application period, and it's been going on. I know it has to be reauthorized every year, but the IFF has been going on for over 20 years now. We don't expect it to stop. It's a very popular program, as you can imagine. And you can go online at SAFER and see the amount of money. Westland, I think, just got $5 million recently, Southfield. So cities all shapes and sizes apply for this and get awards. So there's another avenue as you look through funding 16 personnel and paying Detroit for those personnel, or adding your own personnel as Harper Woods employees, and what you'd be able to do. So there's other things to look at. Thank you.
Good evening, council. Blessings to you this evening. I'd like to remind the members here that the project that Ty is working on, the state, Ty has left. I thought the state was going to be doing a redevelopment bid quotation for Poupard, and I still hear this terminology about homes and our development property, neighborhood and enterprise zone. I just feel as though a home has a property and that you're bringing in 71 people that are going to be living in a hotel. It's all grant money. It's eventually going to tax us out of our homes. If you were concerned about your community that you know is elderly, then you would look at this community center as a benefit for them. I've already provided you with documentation of my thoughts. If the police and fire are getting some kind of funding, then why can't the community center that may be developed into something like Troy, so that the police will be have a nicer shower area and workout facility also? It's only 1,500 feet down the street if Poupard was transformed into a community center. And Sharon wants to talk about her verbiage with the school or attending. And my terminology is a home has property, not 3 stories high looking in my backyard. As far as the Macomb County merging goes, let me tell you, the brand new stop sign on a parallel intersection is sitting at 45 degrees on the bank's property. Isn't that great that we're combining ourselves with Sterling Heights? As we can all see what they've turned into, I was raised in Sterling Heights. I milked pigs at 5 years old. Or pigs and cows, and I shot my own deer at 8, and I skinned my own deer at 8. And I'm telling you, I really feel as though you guys are just restricting more and more as our freedoms. And I want to know, where do I register my shovel? Because I'm really tired of the psyops on guns. In 1942, Time Magazine did an editorial on how to train their children. And that was during wartime. So we're not doing it right, guys. The people going down the street at high rates of speed, it's called a program and a television. And again, you're still pursuing the medical marijuana. I don't want it on my street. I didn't vote, and we were here till 12:30 in the morning on retail dope. But you get funding, you get funding, you get funding, you get funding. I gave you some ideas how that community center can give you your own money for additional police and fire and raises for yourself. And yes, the stop signs. If Madam Mayor, I live on a corner, you can get as many trips to Washington, D.C. and Traverse City you want if you sit on the corner of my street.
Good evening, Kristen Olin Sullivan, Country Club Drive. I'd like to ask a couple of questions. How's that website going? As of 6 o'clock tonight, it was still 100% non-compliant, and we haven't heard anything in a long time. When can we learn about the issues that people bring to you? You refer them here, you refer them there, we never get to hear about them. And also, when can we talk to you about the issues that we have so that you can have a conversation? All you do is say, public comment, so you just sit there. And one last thing, during public comment, could you at least pretend to pay attention? I've been watching several of you, and you're all over the place, you're not listening, and it's really offensive. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Teresa Foster. I live on Woodland. I'm going to the pocket parks again. Sorry. We have a few empty lots in Harper Woods that cost $32 a week to cut. And when you make it a pocket park with the money from the budget, our tax dollars, and grants, then it costs $195 a week. So the increase costs us $163. Instead, I propose that we start using our resources. We have a school that has, where they teach the trades. If you can help educate our children by building the homes on these empty lots, sell them, receive the taxes, and on the sale of the homes, you can offset the price of the building materials to put the houses together. And then This would be a better than having a pocket park this a few people would enjoy. If you really want a pocket park, you have the property right behind the city hall. Put that there. You could have a gazebo and you could have a meeting place for the different commissions to meet and do a beautification committee. You can meet there and then go off to your different places that you want to do instead of just having a pocket park for 1 or 2 people in the city. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak before we go turn it over to the council?
Still Larry Hakeem, still live on Little Stone. I just had a question that if at any point we keep hearing, and I was a part of the number $135 million development that was put on Eastland. You recently had a ribbon cutting for the first building of tenants. We're building 71 new houses or residences on the old Poupard. You've passed, agreed, and are willing to open 3 new cannabis retail outlets. These are pretty good tax generating properties, I believe. I'm not real smart, but I think $135 million investment into a property that's renting space, 71 new homes and 3 new businesses somehow should be able to generate $1 million a year of replaced tax income that we all know we lost when Eastland left. And at $1 million or $1.5 million a year of new tax revenue dollars, I don't know what the projection is. I haven't done it, haven't figured out the numbers yet. But I gotta believe there's gonna be enough tax money generated from those 3 things alone that would more than offset the $1.1 million plus that we heard tonight that it would cost for us to hire 6 firefighters and retain our own identity. Unless, I would love to hear what the real numbers or the projections would be in 2 years. Supposedly, hopefully, all these projects are up and running and generating taxable income to the city. What would be, and you can't sell, build, do anything like that without projections. So to say we don't know what they are, I know we don't know what they are, but what was your projection of what that could generate when you agreed to do the projects? Okay? It's fiscally irresponsible if you didn't do that, so I'm sure you did it. I would just like a guesstimate of what that number could be 2 years from now at today's dollars, and if that could offset the $1 million plus needed to maintain our own fire department identity. Hey, that's it. I'm going home.
Oh, yes, step forward.
Good afternoon. My name is Daniel McBride, Eastwood. I'm here with a heavy heart. I used to drive through Hopper Woods before I moved into Hopper Woods. I moved to Hopper Wood in 2010. And from that day to this one, it's changed like day and night, black and white. It used to come down through here, it used to have respect. It used to be clean. I had to call numerous times to the police department, as a matter of fact, this week. Tenant across the street, they don't take care of their property. And their front yard looked like a car lot, parking on the grass. And I'm quite sure one of the officers took the call, because when I called, they came right away and they put a ticket on the car. But what do them tickets do? This is not the first time I've called. They come and put a ticket, then they'll wait a while, then they'll start parking on the grass again. So what is the consequence of the ticket? They just get the ticket and don't have to pay no fine or anything? So you know, my home is to me, it's kind of considered my investment. I heard the gentleman talking about he's gonna build some houses with low tax rate. I might be a little slow, but if I'm paying $200-some thousand for my house and I'm paying high taxes, then you're gonna have somebody come in with a new house and pay less taxes than I'm paying. That don't seem right to me. If you're gonna come in and pay the $200 for a brand new home, pay the same taxes at least that I'm paying. So that's one. So that's one of my concerns. So, and I would like to see police officers to patrol my neighborhood a little bit more than I see. They do a good job. I don't have no complaints about them. When you call them, they come. But like my gentleman said, they speed down my street every day. They speed, and this ain't the first time I spoke on it. But I comes here and you guys polite, y'all listen. The police officer, they listen, but they still speed. People don't, when I first moved here, they used to have a car that go around the neighborhood. If the grass too high, they put a ticket on their door. Grass in one of my neighbors is up to the kneecap in the back. So I would like to see some of the quality will come back. I know you're getting ready to hit it, but I would like to see some of the quality come back to Harper Wood like it was before I moved here and when I moved here in 2010. Thank you.
Hi, Scott on Country Club. I was listening to Kristen's comment. I've been coming to these things for a long enough time, and this is great that we have the opportunity to talk. But where I work, when we have a problem, we own it. We own it until it's fixed. I hear all these problems every week. What are you guys doing? Is somebody taking notes back there and say, hey, I'm going to follow up with the police chief and follow this thing through? Anybody. We hear the problems. The residents are here speaking from the bottom of their hearts with problems. We need to fix this stuff. We need to own the problems. Maybe you can't fix it in 2 weeks, but document it and then come back. We should have an agenda item on here. It says, whatever it is, status of residents' issues. Report back. What's going on? We're following through. Either we're going to do something, or this is meaningless. So that's it.
Does anybody else like to speak?
My name is David Carrico. I'm a captain here at the Harper Woods Fire Department. I've been employed here for the past 17 years. I wear the patch on my shirt with pride. I'm happy to be here in Harper Woods. I'm happy to serve its residents. I've been offered jobs elsewhere, even in the past 5-6 years, that I turned down to stay here in Harper Woods. I like the small community. I like the investment we have in the community. I've taught many CPR classes, Stop the Bleed classes. I just took place at an active shooter conference the past week of ways to fight things that are hopefully not going to happen, but to be prepared in doing so if they ever do. I have a strong investment in this community. Now, after I retire, my reliance on this city's success is very important, okay? And I think all of you understand that too. You're all employed at some place. You know that if that fails, then a lot of stuff in your life is done, I'm not here to shame another city's fire department, but when you buy something on Amazon, you look at the reviews. Now, Detroit Fire does not have a review that you can look at, but look in their news. Drive along the other side of Kelly Road, drive along Ross, see how they fight fire. It's a lot different than how we fight fire. If you put a patch on my shoulder that says a different city, My dedication does not stay with Harper Woods. It stays to the city that I'm employed with. I've chosen to stay here for 17 years through multiple injuries, like career-ending injuries. I've broken my neck, I've torn up both of my knees, back, and I still keep coming back here. I still keep doing that to fight that for the city of Harper Woods. I would like that to continue. My brethren would like that to continue. And just to think of some of the comments that have made in the past, we've had our differences. We've had negotiations. We've had good and bad negotiations between us and the city in the past. But something that keeps coming to mind is the 6 of our members holding the city hostage. That's right now. We have open negotiations. We have open talks. We're always an open door to communicate and talk with you and discuss things. But if you think the 6 of us is bad, how many people did Detroit have? They have a very, very strong fire department, and their union too, and that's who you'll be negotiating with next. I just want you to keep in mind that kind of stuff, the bigger picture of what goes from here. And the decisions that are made to make those negotiations, are they sticking, those people invested in those decisions, are they sticking around to see and feel the repercussions of those? What happens then if they don't work out? You just need to keep those open minds of what happens if this doesn't happen. You know, what happens if this goes south on us? So thank you for your time. Thank you for the inquisitive questions tonight as well, for those who proposed those. I thank you for your time.
Okay, is there anyone else in the audience that wish to speak? Seeing none, I'll take this to City Council, starting with Councilwoman Constantino.
Couple things. First of all, I had a reason to call the police department this week. I thought that someone had broken into my rental garage. Some of the neighbors came and told me the door was open. And I had a couple officers come out. One of them was one of our new officers too, Dianovich. And the other officer, but they got to the bottom of it really quickly. They found that they saw I guess a bike tread that apparently it was kids that had ridden their bike into the door so hard that it actually popped the door open. So it wasn't really broken into, there wasn't really anything missing. And so I was glad to hear that. But I was very grateful that they came over and they helped me out with that situation. And glad that nobody was trying to break in, although we do have to have a conversation if the neighbor gets crashing into the doors, but that's much worse, or much less terrible than crime. Anyway, the other thing I wanted to know, we used to get subsidies to hire police officers and such for years and years and years, and I wanted to know, have we been applying for the SAFER grants? I remember we used to get subsidies, you remember, you've been on a long time, for like 3 years, and we would have a police officer's wages covered for us. And we got a lot of great new police officers through that program. So I just wanted to see if we were still doing that, and if not, why, and that we really need to step up and start applying for more grants again.
Mr. Toussaint.
Okay, I had an opportunity to, one thing our mayor encourages all of us to be on committees so we can have input while decisions are made. So by the time a council approval is needed, it won't be first time we've heard about it. So I'm on the Parks and Recs Committee. So I had a chance to kind of meet with them. They meet quarterly. So we have some great things going on with the park, going on in our Parks and Rec department. I'm sorry Chris isn't here today. But I encourage you to look inside the Insider, and on page 2021, it gives all the different programs that we have. And we really would like more and more of our residents to take advantage of some of the things that we really try to sponsor to pull the city together, you know, try to give a thing in the summer. Sometimes you come, sometimes you don't. So we as City Council is trying to make that happen, to keep the city coordinated and having fun together. Okay, I'm happy that Harper Woods and the Points have a pretty good relationship. In fact, we're all sponsoring the Juneteenth celebration. I'm sure the mayor will be commenting on it a little bit more. Mayor Kendall and I had the opportunity to march in with the administrators and sit on the stage for the graduation class of 2024 for
Chandler Park.
Chandler Park Academy. Point out good grades, okay, and sit on the board. There were 152 students, with several getting even dual certification, a high school diploma and associate degree from with WC3. Proud to hear that. Their graduation class received more than $11 million in educational aid. So we have 3 school districts that support, that educate our kids here, and I'm just giving a report on the last one. I also attended D-Day at the War Memorial honoring veterans. Also, our military forces were, even though our military forces were still segregated at that time, contributions by the black military, like the Tuskegee Airmen, was also recognized and honored. Mother's Day, Father's Day celebration at the Harper Woods College and Career Institute Center on Kelly Road will be Thursday, June 13th from 5 to 8. Good fellowship, fun, and entertainment. So keep that in mind on your scheduling. That's all, thank you.
Madam Mayor, I also want to mention that I went to the Memorial Day service, of course, held here, and it was a very, it's always a very good service. I had the opportunity to talk to the young woman who played taps at the service, and she did such a moving job. It reminded me very much of services that I went to, funeral services that I've gone to in the past for service members. I encourage everyone, if you haven't gone to our Memorial Day service, it happens every Memorial Day, and it's really a very nice program. I was also at the Ribbon Cutting for Eastland Commerce Center. And I want to mention that the lower level of the library is now open. And so if you have grandchildren and children interested in taking out children's books, I was there today with my grandson. He just loved, he's almost 2, just loved being down there and checking out the Duplo table and a lot of good fun things for kids, which also makes me want to mention that there are several really wonderful programs going on in the community at our library, and I don't think enough people take advantage of the programs. I know Mr. Toussaint was talking about some of the programs that Parks and Rec offer, but I want to mention the library programs as well. Story time for little kids, 2 to 5-year-olds on Wednesdays at 11:15. There's a summer reading program for all ages, including adults, which will culminate in an ice cream social. So take advantage of that. That program begins June 17th and runs through the 26th. There's herbs or spice of the month, where you can go into the library, and while supplies last, every month there's a different spice and recipes to explore. They will be hosting a free tour of the Helm. So many of our seniors may not have had an opportunity to get over to the Helm and check out the programs over there. There will be a bus leaving from our library and taking interested residents to the Helm on July 16th. So please sign up at the library. The program goes from 11:30 in the morning till 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And there, mark your calendars, September 28th, the library is celebrating its 60th anniversary. And so they're making some plans for that celebration. I also wanted to mention that there will be a special program. The NEDC is hosting a trading post on June 29th from 10 to 3 at Redeemer United Methodist and Vernier. Take what I like to say, one person's trash is another person's treasure. And so you might be able to pick up something that you think is valuable to you. You might be able to trade something you have for something someone else might want. So consider that. It sounds like a lot of fun.
I don't have a lot. I went to several Wear Orange events last week. Just wondering, I appreciate Ivy wearing orange today, and just
a week late.
Spent a little time with Mia Frazier, Ryan Frazier's mom, and she's an incredible woman, and he was one of the kids that were massacred at MSU. So if we can all just maybe just take a moment and remember Brian and our own Ariel Anderson, and that this gun violence just out of hand. One other thing, the Beautification Commission, if you see some people maybe driving slow past your house, it's because we're out looking how nice your houses are, so don't get mad that someone's out looking at your house. And if you know a neighbor or somebody that you think you want to nominate, Leslie, you can call Leslie.
Call
She
clerk's
prefer
office.
you email Leslie at Carrie Thompson. And, you know, if your neighbor's house is looking great, your own house is looking great, nominate them, because we're going to be out in the next couple of weeks picking the houses for beautification awards.
Hello, everyone. Just got a couple of things. One of them is I do agree with that we should give reports about how we follow reports on what's going on. For a short time, we did get a few follow-up reports, but I think maybe, I don't know whether it's just too tedious to keep writing them. But, you know, after we had our city council meetings, we will get a couple of follow-up reports in our email, but that's stopped. So
I agree.
So I think that would be nice to at least find out what happened once, you know, you send different people to talk to different people. Another thing is I went to the Memorial Day service that Harper Woods had on Veterans Day. So it was very nice. We had several speakers. Harper Woods was very well represented. State Senator Kevin Hertel spoke. State Representative Veronica Paez spoke. Wayne County Commissioner Tim Killeen spoke. So it was very nice. And it's always a great thing to honor our veterans. They even gave a list of the people who had died who was from Harper Woods. So that was really nice. So I really enjoyed that. And another thing, Juneteenth is coming up. It is a celebration of the end of slavery in the United States. The Juneteenth celebration often includes lectures and teaching about the African American heritage. The city of Harper Woods had a historical event take place after our last election. This is the first time that the mayor of Valley Kendall and myself, the mayor pro tem, are both African American and women. So that was something historical that had never happened in Harper Woods. However, the bad part is that you would not know it from the print of our flyers that come out at most of these city events. I've gone to at least 3 or more events, and the Memorial Day was one of them, in which the mayor pro tem is still listed incorrectly as Vivian Sawicki. So no disrespect to you, Vivian, but it still is being listed incorrectly. At first I thought it was a mistake and that would be corrected, but as time went on, I see that it has not. It still keeps happening. The mayor pro tem title is only a 2-year title until the next regular election. But now I'm starting to think that this is not just a mistake. I don't know, Madam Mayor or Acting City Manager, because this keeps occurring. Even after getting close to almost a year after election. It almost seems like, I don't know, that you don't want people to know there's a different mayor pro tem, because I keep saying this.
I want to interrupt on that,
Okay.
okay? Because I did speak to the girl that was in charge. She's relatively new at this in our Parks and Recs department, and I explained to her that you have to get the elected officials correct. Yours wasn't the only mistake that was made. Young people, it takes them a while to notice changes like that, but we did put a procedure in place that anything regarding elected officials has to be reviewed by the city clerk, myself, or somebody in administration. So my apologies for that. I was aware of that when I sat with you there, and I saw that, and I did speak with her. So,
All right, so I'm gonna just finish reading what I had wrote. My next sentence was, I keep getting apologies from the mayor and the acting city manager, then it happens again. It seems like that it would be a simple thing just to correct the brochures, you know, because if you could change the date, you could change the speakers. It seems like it wouldn't take but a few more minutes just to review, to get the print right. And I've even seen the name of the Mayor Pro Tem incorrectly stated on some very important documentation for the city of Harper Woods. So all I was saying is I shouldn't have to keep going to these events and keep seeing this over and over when we're already almost a year into the term. So it may not mean a lot to you all, but it does mean a lot to me. I would like to sometimes be able to take the flyers home to my family and show it to them.
Can't do that.
So this should not keep occurring. So we'd just like to see the print corrected in the future. And I am looking forward to our Juneteenth celebration. I know it's a joint project with the Grosse Points. Thank you.
And you will be duly noted correctly. And I went through the same thing when I became Mayor Pro Tem. They continued to put Vivian's name there, and my name began with a V, so it was really simple. You know, it kept being Vivian's, but it's okay. I mean, you know, we work through these processes, nothing malicious. It's, we're just in this era of cut and paste, and there's no review. So from now on, we will have a review, so these kind of things do not happen. And as we have said, we truly apologize because I was shocked when I looked at it and saw it, you know, but what's done is done, and please accept the apology of the city administration that this should not happen again.
I'm sorry.
We lost a valuable, well, a member of our community, and her husband and I, we all were a part of the Friends of the Harper Woods Library. He was president and I was vice president for a very long time. And I cannot think of her last name, but her first name is Tina. And unfortunately, Tina passed away a few weeks ago. She fell and broke her hip. And as we age, that is so detrimental to our seniors. You can be functioning. I mean, I've had relatives and friends through the years that was like very active, and then they fail and they succumb to the injury or whatever it just seems like. But Tina was a very active member of the library. She was a reader over there for the adults and children's, Mary Beth?
Yeah, I think so, but I can follow that.
So I just wanted to give a little thank you for her, for all her service, that she continued to serve the library, which she was an avid reader and she loved working with children and readers. So for Tina, may you continue to rest in peace. And with that, Tom?
Madam Mayor, I'll make the motion for adjournment.
Support.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion accepted. Meeting adjourned.